Good evening. This will be the Village of El Portal Village Council Code Enforcement Committee meeting, and as chair, I'll call the meeting to order. Begin each committee meeting with, the time the meeting is beginning is 7:42 p.m. and this is in fact Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. Every committee meeting with a moment of silence and just at the All right. Very good. All right. And then, Ms. Manager, could I please get a roll call?
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Harold Mathis,
Present.
and Chairperson Andrew Serval.
Present.
Also present is interim village attorney Norman Powell and village manager Christy Owen. We have a quorum, Chairperson Serval.
Very good. All right, the agenda is short and sweet today. It will grow substantially in the coming committee meetings for code enforcement. For this evening, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move approval. I'll second that.
Okay. The agenda is approved as written. Yes, the agenda is approved as written. And then the minutes from the March 5th, 2019 meeting, I would defer to Councilperson Mathis.
I haven't had a chance to read those. I would motion that we defer to the next committee. I'll second that motion that we defer to the next committee.
Okay. The minutes have been properly moved to the next meeting, which would be in July. Is that correct? Okay. The motion is properly moved and seconded to be revisited in the July. Forgive me. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Yeah.
opposed?
May I say one thing? I hear Councilperson Roman, I hear Councilperson Mathis. For purposes of the recording, can we just let the attorney correct them, please? And you're doing great. Don't worry.
Okay.
You're doing fantastic.
All right.
But just so we don't hear no
There's been a
mumbling.
motion
We hear no
to-
mumbling on that.
There's been a motion
One
by
person.
Councilperson Mathis to defer the approval of the March 5, 2009 Code Enforcement Committee meetings to the next meeting, and it's been duly seconded by Vice Mayor Nickerson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And with that, the minutes will be revisited in the July meeting. All right, that brings us speedily along to good and welfare. Is there anyone who would like to bring up any business? Good and welfare, yes, please do.
Good evening. Harold Rivera, 225 Northeast 86th Street.
Okay.
This is an issue that's been ongoing, and I have addressed with previous chair to code enforcement. Last time that I was here was on the evening of your swearing in as the new council person, and I addressed this on a sidebar. Now I'm addressing it publicly. I have brought up concerns about abandoned junk cars in private property on swells and or cover. I have brought up concerns about exterior maintenance on properties. Basically, on abandoned junk cars, I was told there's nothing that can be done because the car was registered or had a valid tag. And I was told to go speak with the chief. Okay? Chief was new. I've never seen him before. I know him now. This was an item that's been on the radar for years, and for the past 5-6 months, I've been trying to address this. Since I was told there's nothing can be done because the cars are tagged and no one can go into those properties, you could go into my property and see whether I have a permit and doing my job. That's something that happened before when we had code enforcement representatives, but now we have nobody and we have a board that doesn't do anything. So since I was told nothing could be done, I actually literally went into the village website. I pulled up all code enforcement and charter information regarding abandoned cars and or exterior. I see what the village should be charging in fines if you were to sanction somebody. So, one, financially, we should be doing this because it's a benefit to our budget. Two, none of this code enforcement says I should talk to the chief of police. Some of these policies do specifically say that the vehicle must be behind a fence. It cannot be seen as an abandoned car in the front of the property. I attempted to go get you some pictures, but CBS had the printer messed up. I will bring you those pictures. I'm only bringing one set of printouts. I'm going to give this to the manager, since we don't have the clerk here. And I respectfully ask the manager to make sure that this is distributed to everybody. And as a resident, I don't want to hear there's nothing to be done. You wrote this charter, you've supported this code enforcement documentation that's on the village website, do something about it. Okay? And second to that, under Florida Sunshine Open State Law, I respectfully ask that Councilmember Mattis does not show up at my property. Since the day of that inauguration for you, or that swearing in for you, I have seen him step into my property 3 times. He just actually told me 5, knocking on my door to tell me that there's other information that he knows about this. He's the one that told me that nothing can be done. Therefore, I do not want to hear from you. You're no longer the chairperson. I need somebody to do something on here. Abandoned cars, okay? Junk cars, properties that are totally an eyesore for this community. It's one, a way for you to collect money on sanctioned revenue. 2, it's a way for you to improve our living and our property value when those vehicles are not in the front of the property. That's my statement. Okay?
Yeah.
Bring you the pictures tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other business for good for the next meeting?
Ives Garcia, 500 Northwest 87th Street. Just a general FYI, on the corner today, the water department was cleaning the valves through the fire hydrants and everything else, so there was a lot of flooding going on. Just in case there's questions as to why there was so much flooding or what was going on, I just wanted to inform the council. They were flushing all the lines, so they literally opened up the fire hydrants and flooded that whole corner of where I am. So that whole area was flooded for a while. But it's already been done, they closed it all down, but I just wanted to FYI you guys.
Okay. Very good. All right, next item is agenda items. The first and only would be the tracking report review. Councilperson Nickerson or Mattis, I would again, for this, my first meeting, ask if there's anything that you would like to put forth towards the tracking report.
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then I have then I'd just like to ask just a few questions of the committee, so I can this is my first opportunity to get up to speed with the committee. And so, for me, personally, I have a goal. I'm open to input, I am. But my goal would be to have a list of prioritizations. And so, for me, my first priority is derelict, specifically derelict properties, which would probably be separated somewhat from abandoned properties. And then step down would be, general cosmetic issues or maintenance of properties. So, and then beyond that would be a kind of large gap, in my opinion. A distant second priority would be, in my mind, some of the more, what you, I'm sure is not petty to everybody, but what you call kind of more petty issues in terms of, they have a fence, why can't I? If that's their roof, why can't I? You find them, you didn't find them, why are you finding me? So, so those issues I don't intend to put on the back burner and ignore, but I would like to get up to speed with the committee in terms of where those priorities lie, beginning explicitly with derelict properties, and then moving down from there, which I think would potentially help address the issue that was just brought up. Does that sound like a sound plan from a new council person? I would ask my committee to give me guidance in that direction.
I think we already have those set in place. I would suggest that you sit down with Carlos and he can give you a rundown of what properties have been cited,
Okay.
what process in the being cited process is going on
Okay.
with those properties, and he can also give you a background of other situations that.
Okay, and then I did have a couple of questions in regards to the sunshine laws. So Attorney Powell might be able to help me understand where my boundaries lie. But as the chair of the Code Enforcement Committee, do I have open access to Carlos?
Absolutely.
Okay, I can come and visit him anytime,
Absolutely.
talk about official, yes.
If I may,
Yes, please, Ms. Manager, yes.
Carlos is a member of the administration.
Okay.
So through me, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. You are more than welcome to meet with
Okay.
him. But you and I are meeting on Friday, so I would
Yes.
like to bring Carlos in on that
Very
day so
good.
that we can
Okay.
go over these things with you.
All right. And so, so for me personally, I see code enforcement as not just an avenue towards resource and revenue for the village, but I find that it also is where a lot of neighborly strife resides. And so I know that Pluserbia is assisting us with updating the code, which I believe will go a very long way towards being able to apply the code fairly and uniformly. It sounds like there are some issues with some of the outdatedness of the code that way that make it difficult to apply uniformly and fairly. So in that regard then, who would I would ask, does this committee in the past, has it explicitly met with Pluserbia, or is it strictly planning and zoning?
When it comes to,
When it comes to updating ordinances? or updating-
anyone can update an ordinance or a code.
Okay.
It's up to us to do it. I mean,
Okay.
But I know where you're getting at, but
Right.
again, I think to answer a lot of your questions, because just because someone sees a property
Right.
and it's like, well, why haven't they been cited?
Right.
Doesn't mean that they haven't been cited.
Correct.
That you just don't know what's going on
Right.
in the process.
Right.
So again, I think if you sit down with Carlos and he's amazing.
Okay.
And you know, he's very detail oriented. I can see that you have one of
Yes.
his, and he can tell you exactly what's going on, who he's spoken to. He meets with the manager often, and then they discuss it, so she knows what's going on as well. And
Okay.
I think once you meet with him and her, you'll have a better understanding of what's going on and how the process and the procedure works.
All right. And then recently, it was brought to my attention that when we do settle things like liens, for example, placed against properties and other fines, that as we get into the next committee meeting in July, I would be reaching out to my committee members ahead of that to come up with a plan for monies collected that are not necessarily part of the budget explicitly, so that when we do receive monies from specifically things like liens or citations in general, we would have that we would have an avenue already outlined to streamline being able to use those funds.
Again, when you speak with the manager on Friday, you'll
Yeah,
have a.
and we spoke,
understanding of how that's-
we spoke a little earlier this week on that. So,
And if I may, too,
Yes.
there is something I would like to bring up to this body regarding lien settlement. As you all know, we have been suffering with this roof, and it's leaking and being turned down for insurance claims to have it repaired. We're just now at the point where we've got 4 different sites and a terrible mold problem, so I need to fix this roof. That said, I settled one of the liens for a significant amount. That amount will cover the roof. And I ask this body, since we're all here, if you will support me in this spending that is more than my spending authority, but I do have an emergency request to fix the roof. So I ask that you consider that and please, say yes or no, but I would like to use that lien settlement funding to fix the roof. And I do have copies of the quotes if you would like to see them from the competitive bids that were submitted to me, but the roof will be $56,000.
so then,
It would be a two-step process. The first would be that she would ask this committee to act on the recommendation and then bring it to the full council at the meeting in 2 weeks.
is it this committee that has the authority explicitly, or is that something that needs to go to full council to?
And you can be active.
Well, either the admin finance or this committee, because she's actually, as I understand the request, going to be used funds that are part of the code enforcement process and settlement of the lien. So the first step would be for her, as she's done, to request to be able to get a recommendation from this committee to permit her to use the lien funds to fix the roof and bring that to the council at the next meeting. The secondary aspect of what she's asking is to waive competitive bidding because in a particular case it would be impracticable, and that's permissible under section 3.09 of the charter. And this committee can also recommend that also as part of the recommendation.
As long as we're clear that, while there was not a competitive bid put out, there was multiple quotes.
Right, and
As
that
long as
would,
we're clear on that.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, the manager would, I would expect that at the meeting, she would then present that as part of the agenda item at that point in time.
So then, Ms. Manager, I would ask then, which committee were you looking to approach to get official approval to do just that?
I'm here before this committee to
Okay.
ask for it, and then I hope to take it to council. And the reason being is because we are meeting tonight.
Okay.
The roof is leaking every day. I can't wait too much longer. So
Very
How
good.
much? How much?
Let me, if I may, with your permission, by Mr. Herman, under the charter, the manager's limit to purchase items is $5,000.
Okay.
So to the extent that this item is going to exceed that, I don't think it exceeds it that much.
no, it's just a bit more, but it's for the deposit to get the materials.
So
I see.
under the charter, she's allowed to come back to the council to request a waiver of competitive bidding.
Okay.
And the basis for that would be, you all determining that it's impractical. And most of the time, it's usually because there may be something that's exigent, like health, safety.
Sure.
So,
Which is
Which is-
qualified, right, absolutely. All right, then, one of my only remaining questions would be for Vice Chair Mathis, if there's anything in place that would cause us to need a separate process, or that would, the money that she's requesting, is called a windfall, right? We have a windfall receipt. Okay, all right. So, is there any other precedent? Is there any other item in place decided before that this money would otherwise be required to be used for?
No, not that I'm aware of. usually when these settlements happen, because it's administrative,
Okay.
we don't even know unless we require.
So then, is there any, between Councilperson Nickerson or yourself, is there any objection to using that money to,
No objection for
No, no
stage
objection
one.
from me. I think we should make the motion.
okay, so would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
I'll motion approval to grant the manager the needed monies for this first process of preparing the extension.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, the motion is passed. The motion is properly moved and second. Okay. And then, Ms. Manager, could I have a roll on the
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis,
Yes.
Chairperson Burbach.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes
All
unanimously.
right.
And that's to move it to full council.
Right, for the next meeting.
Yes. And there's another, you stated two, Mr. Attorney, there was a second part to that.
Right, as part of the recommendation from this committee to the full council will be that there's a determination made that it would be impractical at this point to address the issue to go to competitive bid.
So we need a motion on that.
I'll move a motion to bypass the competitive bid process and move to the full council.
I'll second that motion.
The motion is properly moved and second. Ms. Manager, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Chairperson Burbach.
Yes,
Thank you. Passes unanimously.
it does pass unanimously.
Mr. Chair, if I may
Yes.
say a couple of things, please. First of all, welcome to your first committee meeting. Good to see you here. You're doing wonderfully, may I say. So when you were bringing up the derelict properties and you were bringing up the Serbia with the codes and things like that, the mayor has been saying, for us to take control of our tracking reports.
Okay.
And so you would probably want to put both of those things on your tracking report.
Okay.
Because those are going to be, both of those things are going to be ongoing things to where every time we have a meeting, you're going to want to, like for all the meetings that you have with Carlos,
Yeah.
you're going to want to update the committee.
Okay.
And you might have information that, and you have it on the tracking report, every meeting will go over those things and bring up derelict houses. Anybody seen any new derelict houses? These are the updates from the last derelict houses and da-da-da. So you want to put both those things on your tracking report.
Okay, very good. All right. Is there any other pressing issue that anyone in my committee would like to bring up?
No, I think that, I think that, maybe the three of us, if not, tonight, because, time is means running long, I'm not sure how you want to handle it, but what's your current tracking report, you may want to look at it and see if there's anything that you may want to take off. I mean, it's really small. I think that everything that's here should probably stay on. If I'm not mistaken, Councilperson Roman, the home of the month we still keep on the code enforcement, right? Is that right? Or do you want to put that in? It's up to you. I mean, since you're now in this committee, this is your thing, you might want to put on public affairs so you have more control over it. So things like that. She's the one that started the Home of the Month program.
Okay.
Since she's now on the Code Enforcement Committee, she's chair of the Public Affairs Committee, then it's probably better for us to take it off of the Code Enforcement tracking report and for her to put it on the Public Affairs tracking report since it's her program. And so things like that, you might just want to go through it right now and just see
Okay.
what you want to keep on your tracking report.
Okay, very good. And then, can we talk about potential additions? The additions, I guess, would be what I just brought up, just the prioritization of properties. All right. I have no objection to having the Home of the Month travel with Councilperson Roman to, I think it makes more sense to be in the Public Affairs Committee, just as, it seems like a public affairs
It is.
activity. So, would there be a motion, do we need a motion to?
No.
Okay, we can just declare?
Your
I
track.
have that much authority?
Your track.
Okay, all right, very good. Then I would like to scratch home of the month from the code enforcement tracking report and have that travel again with Councilperson Roman to the Public Affairs Committee. All right. Councilperson Mathis, is there anything you want to talk about in terms of 5?
No. I'll give you a whole synopsis of what 5 is all about. It was
Okay.
something I came up just to, Carlos is working on that.
So we're talking
This
rollout.
process of code enforcement. So
We're talking like rollout?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, anything to add to code enforcement workshop? What was your goal for the week?
I'm with the National Code Enforcement Association. I was trying to get it there. And it's, yeah, there's a committee, and there's a committee meeting, a national committee meeting in October, and I wanted to attend that and then have the code enforcement workshop. But what I'll do is I'll get you the information, you can attend it, and then schedule a
I think he's
workshop.
telling you to talk in the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a National Code Enforcement Committee that I'm on, and they're having their meeting in October, and I wanted to have the workshop after that meeting, so I'll get you the information, you can attend the workshop,
That sounds
and
good.
then set up the...
In theory, we'll have some more updates to the code by then as
Yeah.
well, and that would be helpful. All right. Ms. Mayor, did you want to say anything in regards to signs, bus ordinances, et cetera?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's great.
So yes and no. One of the things I talked about, and I don't know if you were at the public when I spoke about it, is this tracking report that I'm looking at for code enforcement is incredibly old. I believe Councilperson Roman was the most recent chair. Okay, so I would like to see, I'm asking every chair to please update the track report so that it can go on the website. The track report is not about the chair, it's about the projects.
Right.
So I think it's really important that, you know, chairs can come and go, council can come and go, but the projects belong to the city and to the village. So I think that we should really have all that we have on there, and then we track the projects until they end, until they don't end, or whatever the case may be. But we need to really get a better code enforcement tracking report, because I'm looking at this one, and this probably goes back to probably 2008 or something. Bus ordinances, I think it's something that's not even you can touch on, because there's so much more things that we have to go on. The one thing I would like to see on the code enforcement tracking report is we focus on enforcing to the public, but what I've mentioned to the manager, and I'm going to talk about it on Public Works, is what about the enforcement to ourselves in terms of the city? So we cannot ask our citizens and residents to do, you know, the roof, the painting, the swales, their house, their garden, their grass, but then our right-of-ways look deficient. So I think there needs to be, I think that needs to be on our public, on our tracking report, as, you know, how are we keeping up with the doggy do stations? How are we keeping up with, all those things need to be on there. We cannot be asking people to do something that we as a governing body are not even managing our own property. So that's the only thing, I think, more than bus ordinances, even though that's important, I think that's something that I would tell you all to consider doing that. And please get the most recent tracking report updated. This is very ancient.
And Chair, if I may, I did chair this committee last year, and I do have a much larger tracking report that has been sent to the clerk, and the clerk should have.
Okay.
So if you want to follow up with her, be very specific to ask her to send you mine, and then you can get with Mathis, who has been chairing the committee this year while we had a vacancy, and maybe he can give you what he's been, well, through this clerk, what he's been working with.
Okay, very good. All right. So, as we move towards the July code enforcement meeting, you can expect to find an updated tracking report, additional items listed, and then some good data. So we'll be looking at, potential budgets, averages, things like this, and then we'll develop a plan to have kind of buckets in place as money comes in. That way, we'd be able to put it to use a little more quickly and ideally, well thought out for the future. So, all right. I expected this meeting to be fairly short and sweet tonight, and I believe that there's not much more that I have to add. I've got my notes here, and we'll be looking forward very much to getting to work and seeing you guys here in July at this next committee meeting. All right. With that, all right, in a second. Good enough.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, we're going to go to welfare.
Yes.
In the spirit of communication, I just wanted to alert the committee of the Municipal Commission. Last week, I received a call from an attorney, I believe, who's going to be he called on behalf of Mr. March.
Okay.
Mr. March has come here several times concerning the tree limbs from his neighbor to his yard. I did have a good conversation with the attorney, explained to him that I've done the research. In fact, I thought it was a good idea to actually do an article on liability for your neighbor's tree, which should be appearing in the next newsletter, just so that everyone knows that may escalate because they have to call.
May I add something too?
Please do this.
Just as a light note, something good to end on possibly. I got an email from Councilperson Roman this morning that Keller Williams is doing a community beautification project and was asking for 2 addresses in our zip code, in our neighborhood, of homes that needed just some sprucing up, just some outdoor, some gardening, some attention, and they are doing that free of charge, just the Keller Williams team. So we submitted 5 addresses. Hopefully, one of our addresses will make that cut. But
I saw that my question, I did have one question about that, and that would be the 5 addresses that were submitted. Are the homeowners aware that they're on that list of submission?
No.
No. Okay. So I would just put my 2 cents in as to be cautious because while it sounds great, I'm surprised my address didn't make the list, but so I would still be a little cautious with that because certainly someone could take it very much
We would
wrong. Okay, all right.
No, I'm sure I just submitted.
What do you
the addresses.
need me to
We win
do?
that.
Okay, all right.
Of course. Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I just think that's
All
a
right.
great
Yeah, that'd be
outreach
great.
for that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We
All
still
right.
go to welfare?
We are still in good work. Yes.
I wanted to just say, Keller Williams does it every year, so if we don't make it, let her know next year. She did a lot of work at Village of Villa last year. And then the other thing is, we were talking about the money. So any and all monies that come in, the manager, it goes to the reserves, right? And basically gets used as we needed it, and it goes into mid-budget review, which we're about to go into in May,
Okay.
and then we have to do a resolution if we're out of budget. But then what would be great is when we go into budget, and we take a look at, every department has a revenue and expense.
Right.
So when you take a look at what possible revenues your department may make based on liens, would be great on the expense side to take a look at, okay, well, maybe next year we can, based on what we generated this year, we can spend X amount of dollars on, pressure cleaning the rotunda, or, we can do this. So that that would be a way,
Okay.
just sort of 401, because we're talking about how to better spend the
Sure.
pockets of money. But as money comes in, she generally doesn't tell us, because it goes in the general reserves. We'll know at the middle of, not that she won't tell us, but
Right.
we'll know at budget review.
Sure,
I mean,
okay,
mid-year, okay?
sounds great. All right.
Good job.
Anyone else with good welfare? All right. With that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Easy, Mike.
Oh, Wilson will make my motion.
Motion for adjournment.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Okay, the motion has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. The committee is adjourned. At 8:17 PM. All right. Good job.